most important aspect of fire management is to make sure that you're sure with your knowledge. If you decide you don't believe fire belongs in your landscape, make sure that you're sure. If you think that you need to burn every 3 years, then make sure that you're sure. And the only way to do that is to analyse that, to not burn one piece for a couple more years and see what happens. So whatever you hear or read or see about fire, make sure that you're sure. How can you possibly be sure? You can check with long-term locals. Yep. So people tell me, oh, a fire will never cross this greater blade width. A fire will never cross this dozer blade width. At the Beer Barham fires in 1994, I saw fire jump 4-lane highways 4 times in 10 minutes. So I'm always a bit amused. Given the right weather conditions, fire can do anything. So that would be the most important thing to me. If you're working on knowledge that you've been given by someone else, just do your due diligence and make sure that what you've been told is correct. And at the end of the day, be very aware that you are responsible for fire management on your own land. If you live out of town, you're responsible for your own undertaking. If you live in town, even if you've got a smoke alarm and you can ring triple alarm and everything else, you're still responsible for having an evacuation plan, discussing with your kids, making sure that everyone knows how to unlock the various doors in the room and the house. The bush is no different. If you've got land, whether it's 1 acre or 10,000 acres, you're responsible for your own fire management on your land. So it's good to prepare and plan. What I often see happen in the response time of the year, both in Queensland and in Southern Australia, is people seem awfully unprepared. And I know that because there's someone out there with a pair of shorts, with holding a garden hose that's probably putting out 5 litres per minute, trying to deal with a fire that the expert machinery is not coping with. And I think to myself, that looks a lot like panic to me.
Yeah.
So if you're doing anything with fire, make sure that you're sure. Do your own understanding, your own research, and be so you can have confidence that what you're doing is right. I don't know anything about fire, so I'm always looking back over my shoulder, and I believe strongly that we can learn a lot about going forward by looking back. What's been tried before, what has worked, what hasn't worked, and then just keep testing it as it goes. I really feel the calendar burners, and people will often tell me that, no, particularly in southeast corner country, no, we always burn the week of the exhibition. Well, forgive me, but if we look at the last 10 years, the week of the exhibition, weather-wise, would have a whole range of different elements in it. So perhaps that gives them a mosaic, I don't know. Yep. But I guess I am more attuned to what's happening seasonally. Because often we end up in September, October, November in a dry period, and people then start to think about fire. Particularly on the small rural residential blocks, it's really too late to do much. And even the grader or slasher can start the fire. So you have to come back to the wet season, the end of the wet, you know what rain you've had, you know what grass and abundance of growth is going to happen. That's when you should be talking fire. Yep. It's a real challenge. It's a bit like up in my northern country. The first time they alert to the cyclones in the Coral Sea, everyone starts running around doing cyclone preparation, and you can't buy a tarp or a generator. But most long-term northerners have already figured the cyclone season's going to come. So it's about being prepared. Preparing for fire management, well, I always think where they are in the rural community, talk to someone local that's been there a long time, and you should be able to judge from their land or their cattle or their property whether they're a good land manager or not, and talk to someone long-term local that's got a lot of practical experience and probably has the skill set. If that person is not available, because that's the very reason that the land use has changed, the local rural fire brigade, get on their warden or the brigade, which you normally can find by asking questions at school or the local shop. Everyone knows you're in a small community. There's a whole lot of information now becoming available on websites, and there's certainly our website, Condamine Alliance, they have some links. Southeast Queensland Fire and Biodiversity Consortium have a great website, and they run a twice-a-year workshop for people to attend and learn more. So it's about asking people who've been there before you, which to me again just makes good sense. Yeah. And I guess the local volunteer rural fire brigade principle is founded on neighbour helps neighbour. That's how it was formed in 1927. neighbour helps neighbour, because individually we would never be able to face a gone wrong fire in the late season. So the volunteer brigades found on that principle, neighbour helps neighbour, together to fight something, otherwise they would be wiped out of their land use. So I reverse that principle. If I'm somewhere new and I want to go fishing, I want to take a boat out, I wonder what that bird, plant or tree is, I tend to want to walk toward and ask them on local as to what they know, and from that conversation I'll hear some things, and then I start to evaluate that myself.